I've terminated my LNP membership. I've joined One Nation, and now I'm here. So, you know, I see that other people have been out there saying, oh, you know, it's traitorous and this sort of stuff. Well, that's nonsense, I've got to say too. The only thing that I was perhaps a bit traitorous to was my own conscience, knowing that some of these policies that the government was pushing that I vehemently disagreed with.
OK, so One Nation's other Queensland senator is Malcolm Roberts. He's not up for election this year, but he was at today's event, and he's joining us now to help understand the thinking behind George Christensen's signing. Welcome, Senator Roberts. Given that most pundits would easily agree George Christensen can't win from third spot on the ticket, what in fact is he bringing to the party?
He's bringing a desire to get back into the Senate in a party which has similar values to his. We believe in no 2050 net zero policies. We believe in COVID mandates and other forms of restriction on freedoms need to go. And George has been grappling with his integrity as, well, not his integrity, his consistency, as he's just said, quite freely. And he's been very public about that. He brings his experience in Parliament to us. He brings his candour. He's a real person, just like all of us in One Nation. So he brings that, and I think he's establishing his mark, and at the very least, and hopefully we'll get into the Senate.
Do you agree on the numbers? You would have to get 28, northwards of 28% of the vote. I think even up to a third of the vote to secure as many seats as would be necessary for George Christensen. So even you would have to acknowledge, wouldn't you, Malcolm Roberts, this is an unlikely scenario?
It's a challenge for sure, but there's nothing that Pauline Hanson or I or George like better than a challenge. And George is aware of the numbers, but he's not running away from that. He wants to show his faith in the direction we're heading. We're very consistent with what he's believing, what he's been pushing very hard. He's clearly out of step with the Liberal Party, the modern Liberal Party. So, yeah, it is a challenge. But, you know, Pauline Hanson got around 23% of the vote in the state elections several years ago. She's rising continually into that. And we've now got a very, very unusual situation in federal parliament, Greg. I think everyone is acknowledging that. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. The Liberals won 3 last time with the help of preferences to get the third candidate over the line. And with the help of preferences, there's been a massive, massive swing away from the Liberal National Party. The National Party has abandoned its base and fallen into bed with the Liberal Party, and the Liberal Party is now run by a few dictators. So people are very much out of sync with the Liberal Party. We know for a fact from senior former donors and organisers for the Liberal Party that they have left the Liberal Party. They're now coming to the other parties, and they're now, we've got massive resignations of members from the Liberal Party, and they're coming to us, some of them.
All right.
And so we've got a high potential to get a dramatic increase in votes.
Yeah, and just on that, I'm sure you'd be aware of some people grappling with explanations for George Christensen joining the party. One is pretty obvious. I think at last count, the public funding component per vote that parties get from the Electoral Commission is about $2.83. Would it be in your calculations that he, in fact, is good financially for One Nation, given that public funding?
Greg, you're sounding like the ABC again.
I am the ABC.
I know that, but you're usually not in sync with their their general tone about being anti-One Nation.
Just asking. No, they're just asking the questions, covering off some of the rationale.
I'm just answering in the same way. No, that's not at all anything that Pauline does. She does not do that for money. She never has, never will. This woman has the highest work ethic in the federal parliament. She has the highest integrity. She's got beyond all of that. She does things that are in the best interest of the country. She knows that George has got a lot of fight left in him. She knows that George is true to his values, and they're very much aligned with us. We have had many. I've dealt with George for years now in lower house of Parliament, and I've dealt with people like Craig Kelly, Gerard Rennick. I find them wonderful people to deal with. So no, this is entirely sincere. It's very much about trying to get 3 senators elected, and very much about making sure that One Nation has a good showing at these polls.
Yeah.
George is coming because he believes in what we're doing.
Now,
Very much so. The zero mandates.
Yeah, fair enough. I know you've got other commitments to get to, so just one last one from me. Malcolm Roberts, casual vacancies, of course. Some voters might go to the polls looking at options that occur further down the track. If you, or for that matter, your leader, were to go in the midst of the next term or another term, could we assume that George Christensen would be the P to take over either position?
You can always assume that Pauline, when she chooses that and we give her input, we'll select the best candidate. There's no way I'll be going before the next election, and I don't think Pauline will be going before the next election, so it's a very rare likelihood. But if something does happen, then Pauline will certainly pick the best person for the job. She never guarantees anything. It depends upon performance, loyalty, and above all, being loyal to the people of Australia and serving the people of Queensland and Australia.
And so you'd have to test George Christensen on those measures, would you?
Not at all. No, George, I've dealt with him, as I've said, for a number of years now. Always a man of integrity, always stands up for what he believes in. He hasn't had the support. We will give him that support. We will be backing him. His approach to life, to politics, is very similar to ours. Be upfront, tell people where you stand, and listen to the people and speak for the people and serve the people. That's George.
Yep.
We're very happy to have him. Absolutely delighted to have him. I look forward to working with him.
Yep, certainly a bit of a surprise you pulled today, so we'll see how that goes in the weeks ahead. Malcolm Roberts, thanks again for joining us on Afternoon Briefing today.
Thank you for having me, Greg. A pleasure.